There's a city that doesn't announce itself with noise. It doesn't shout from rooftops or drown you in neon. It simply waits, patient, quietly magnificent, on the edge of a harbor where the water looks like hammered silver on a cold morning. It waits for you to arrive, to slow down, to finally understand what it means to live well. That city is Copenhagen, and today is entirely yours. You didn't stumble here by accident. Something inside you knew, long before you booked the ticket, that you needed a place where the air smells like baked cardamom and salt water, where cyclists glide past centuries-old facades without a second glance, where the concept of Hygge, that Danish art of cozy and meaningful presence, isn't written on a coffee shop chalkboard but lived, breathed, and felt in every corner. Something in you recognized that Copenhagen wouldn't just be a destination. It would be an experience that rearranges something deep inside your chest, quietly, without permission. So here you are. The city is spread before you like a fairy tale that never needed to exaggerate itself. Hans Christian Andersen walked these very streets. He sat in narrow rooms above canal water and wrote about mermaids and tin soldiers. And maybe he understood that the greatest magic wasn't in the stories he invented. It was already here, in the cobblestones, in the light, in the unhurried way this place holds its own history. Today, you walk where he walked. Today, the city is the story, and you are in it. Take a slow breath. Fill your lungs completely. Notice the cool, clean quality of the air. There's moisture in it, that particular Nordic freshness that makes every inhale feel like the first one you've taken all week. Let your shoulders fall. Unclench your jaw. Copenhagen doesn't reward rushing. It rewards presence. And you have exactly 24 hours to be completely, utterly present. Let's begin. Your alarm goes off before the rest of the world is ready to face itself. It's early, deliberately so. The darkness outside your window isn't threatening. It has that specific blue-black quality of a Nordic pre-dawn. Soft and expectant, like the city is holding its breath. Pull on your warmest layer. Lace up your shoes slowly. Feel the deliberateness of that gesture. You are about to step outside before Copenhagen has had its coffee. You are about to see something most tourists sleep through entirely. Walk east. Let your feet find the cobblestones instinctively. The streets are empty in a way that feels sacred rather than lonely. There's a difference. And you'll understand at the moment your footsteps begin their quiet echo between the old buildings. The facades rise around you, painted in those unmistakable shades of ochre and rust and pale cream. Their windows dark and reflective, holding the last of the night. A lone cyclist passes you without a sound, just a soft whir of wheels, disappearing around a corner like something from a dream. Make your way toward the harbor. The Langelinie promenade stretches ahead of you, and the water catches the first pale thread of dawn light and turns it into something liquid and alive. Stand at the railing. Don't take out your phone yet. Just watch. The horizon begins to separate itself from the sky in a thin seam of pale gold, and then the gold bleeds upward, slowly at first, then with sudden confidence, filling the sky above the Danish coastline with the kind of color that painters spend entire careers trying to reproduce on canvas. The copper spire of the Church of Our Savior catches it first, then the old harbor cranes, then the water, which transforms from black to deep indigo to the color of a pearl held up to the sun. Breathe. Eating. The salt is heavier now, the cold more honest. Somewhere behind you, a gull cries once, sharp and clear, and then goes quiet. You're watching Copenhagen wake up, and it is doing so with an almost aristocratic dignity. No dramatic announcement, just a gradual, inevitable unfolding. This is your first gift from this city. Receive it without distraction. Now you are allowed to think about coffee, more than allowed. Required. Turn back from the harbor and navigate toward the bakery that has been waiting for you like an old friend who doesn't yet know your name. Copenhagen's bakeries are not simply places that sell bread. They are philosophical statements about how mornings should be conducted. Push open the door of one of the city's beloved The warmth hits you first. A soft wall of heat that smells of butter and yeast and something floral, almost vanilla, but richer. Your eyes adjust and you see it. The glass case, illuminated like a small altar, filled with golden wiener bread, twisted into spirals and crescents, custard-filled Spandauer glistening with glaze, and the crown jewel, the dark, caramelized director snegel, a cinnamon scroll so deeply bronzed, it looks like it was baked by sunlight itself. Point at the one that calls to you. Wrap both hands around your coffee cup. Take your first sip standing up, right there at the counter. The way the Danes do it. The warmth travels down through the center of your chest. The butter from your pastry is on your fingers. The city outside the window is turning gold. This, right here, is the opening note of your Copenhagen day, and it is almost unbearably good. The city has found its rhythm now. You can feel it the moment you step back onto the streets. There's a pulse to Copenhagen's mornings, a quiet industriousness carried on two wheels, bicycles everywhere, threading through intersections with the calm confidence of people who have never needed to hurry because they have always been exactly where they wanted to be. This is not performance. This is simply how Copenhagen moves. Fall into its tempo. Strøget unfurls ahead of you, Europe's longest pedestrian street. Though to call it merely a shopping street is like calling Nyhavn merely a harbor. It's a living corridor of the city's personality, stretching from Town Hall Square all the way to Kongens Nytorv, shifting in character as you walk. Stop in the middle of it. Let the stream of people part around you like water around a stone. Look up, really look up, at the roof lines, the carved details above the doorways, the chimneys and copper gutters, and the way the morning sky frames everything in sharp Scandinavian clarity. Naduk lift into one of the narrow side streets that shoots off Strøget. These are the passages that guidebooks mention in passing, but rarely linger on. This is where Copenhagen hides its most concentrated version of itself. Antique maps and dusty shop windows. A violin maker's studio with shavings of pale wood on the floor. A tiny courtyard where someone has placed a single iron bench beneath a tree so old it has pushed up the cobblestones around its roots. Stand in that courtyard for a moment. Close your eyes. Listen. The noise of Strøget is already muffled, replaced by the smaller music of pigeons on terracotta tiles, a distant church bell counting out the hour. Open your eyes slowly. The courtyard holds its breath with you. This is Copenhagen saying, look closer. I have more to show you than the postcards know. Make your way now to Kongens Nytorv, the King's New Square, where the geometry of the city opens up into something grand and unabashed. The equestrian statue of Christian V anchors the center, dark bronze against the sky. Cross the square diagonally, the way generations of Copenhageners have before you, and let it lead you where it has always led people who follow their instincts. To the water, to the colors, to Nyhavn. The first sight of Nyhavn stops you. It always stops people, no matter how many times they've seen photographs. The row of 17th century townhouses lining the canal, Fyringen red, mustard yellow, cobalt blue, burnt sienna. Their reflections rippling in the dark water below. The old wooden boats moored along the quay like sleeping sentinels. This is where Hans Christian Andersen lived. Not once, but twice. Stand at the edge of the quay and look down the length of the canal toward the harbor opening. The geometry of it, the color and the light, the way the buildings lean slightly forward as if curious about what passes below. Let it be as beautiful as it actually is. Your stomach is asking questions now, and Copenhagen has the answers. Make your way to Torvehallerne, the glass-roofed food market at Nenreport that stands as both a practical feeding station and a declaration of what the Danes believe a meal should be. The two large glass pavilions shimmer in the midday light, and you feel the change in atmosphere the moment you step inside. Warm, fragrant air, dense, with the competing aromas of fresh herbs, roasting coffee, warm bread, smoked fish, and the sharp, bright edge of citrus. Take your time. Walk the full length of both halls first. Notice the open-faced smere brood arranged in glass cases like edible art. Slices of dense, dark rye bread crowned with architectural layers of pickled herring. Roe, crispy onion, fresh dill, or rare beef with remoulade, and a curl of horseradish, so thin it's nearly translucent. These are not sandwiches. They are Denmark's culinary philosophy compressed into a single object. Restraint, quality, beauty, function. Order the herring smerrebrød. If you haven't tried it before, sit down with your plate and your coffee near the market's edge. Take the first bite. Let the flavors introduce themselves one by one. The deep, slightly sour earthiness of the rye bread, then the brininess of the herring, then the sweetness of pickled onion cutting through it, then the cool green whisper of dill at the end. It arrives in waves, not all at once, and that orderly complexity is precisely the point. This is a meal that has been centuries in the making. Give it the attention it deserves. The afternoon calls for slower things. Copenhagen knows this about itself. Head to the botanical garden, 3 minutes from Torvehallerne. Its green trees visible above the surrounding streets, like a promise. Step through the iron gates and feel the temperature shift slightly. The way air moves differently among trees. The paths are wide and unhurried, lined with specimen trees from across the northern hemisphere. Make your way to the old Parm house, a soaring Victorian greenhouse of iron and glass that has stood here since 1874. Press your hand against the glass wall before you go in. Feel the faint warmth trapped inside. Push open the heavy door. The air that greets you is thick and humid, smelling of wet earth and green growing things, and something faintly sweet that you cannot name. Banana palms reach toward the ceiling. Ferns cascade from iron balconies. The light that falls through the curved glass is diffuse and gentle, like light underwater. For a moment, suspended in this warm, impossible green, Copenhagen feels like the most unlikely miracle. A city that contains multitudes, that can hold a tropical forest in its chest while the Baltic wind sweeps outside. Sit on one of the iron benches inside the palm house. Let the quiet wrap around you. You traveled far to get here. You deserve this stillness. And if you've felt something move through you today, that particular feeling that comes when a city gets under your skin and rearranges something important, then this is the right time to let it settle. If this series has been a companion on your travels, consider subscribing and leaving a like. It's how we keep going. Keep finding the next city. Keep bringing you here. But right now, stay in the palm house. It isn't done with you yet. There is a story this city carries, older than its painted facades and its cycling culture. The Danish concept of Hygge was never about candles and knit. It was about the deliberate cultivation of warmth against the dark. The Danes invented it, not because they are naturally cozy people, but because their winters are long and their nights are very long indeed. And they learned centuries ago that the only answer to darkness is to make the light you need. Every warm lamp in a Copenhagen window, every bakery glowing against the November dark, every small table with 2 friends and a shared pot of coffee. These are not aesthetic choices. They are survival strategies made beautiful. Walk through this city, knowing that now the day bends toward its most extraordinary act. The Danish golden hour arrives later in the afternoon, lingers longer, and operates at a lower angle that turns everything, stone, water, copper, brick, into something that glows from within. Head back toward the waterfront and walk the quiet stretch beyond. Nyhavn to where the Kastellet sits on a low rise above the water. Its massive earthen ramparts, green and ancient. Its windmill, turning slowly against the sky. Climb up onto the ramparts. The view opens before you with quiet authority. The harbor to your right, the city's copper and zinc skyline behind you. The sound of the water, constant and calm below. The light at this hour does something extraordinary to the harbor surface. It fragments across the small waves in 1,000 shifting points, each one briefly gold, briefly silver, the whole surface alive with it. The sky above the Swedish coast is turning amber and rose, and then the deeper bruised purples that signal the transition out of day. A flock of birds crosses the harbor in a loose shifting formation, and their shadows pass over the water below them like a moving thought. Stand here as the light goes. Don't look at your phone. Don't manage this experience. Just be inside it. The city behind you is changing. Lights appearing in windows one by one. The streets below beginning to fill with the early evening crowd. The demode giving way to the warmer, slower frequency of Copenhagen nights. The old windmill on the Kastellet wall turns its blades against the cooling sky. The water goes from gold to pewter. The sky deepens through every shade of blue it knows. You feel it. That specific luminous melancholy that comes at the end of a perfect day. The gentle ache of something beautiful moving past. This city has given you something today that you will carry for a long time. Walk back through the early evening streets with the ease of someone who now belongs here, at least a little. Copenhagen at night finds the intelligent, convivial middle, warm light spilling from restaurant windows, the murmur of conversation from open doors, The last cyclists winding home. The canal, water black and glittering under the bridge lights at Nyhavn, where a couple sits on the quay edge with their feet hanging over the water, a bottle of something between them, talking in low voices about nothing in particular and everything that matters. You have spent 24 hours inside one of the world's most thoughtfully inhabited cities. You have watched it wake up and watched it settle into evening. You have stood inside its coldest dawn and its most gilded dusk. You have eaten food that tastes of this specific latitude. You have breathed air that has crossed the Resund, carrying the memory of open water. And somewhere in the middle of all of it, in a courtyard off Strøget, or in the green warmth of the palm house, or on the ramparts of Kastellet, watching the light go, something clicked into place. Quietly, without announcement, the way the best things always happen. That is what Copenhagen does. It doesn't perform for you. It simply exists with a deep settled confidence in its own worth, and invites you to match that confidence, to slow down to its speed, to believe, if only for a day, that beauty and function can coexist perfectly, that a city can be wise, that 24 hours can be enough to feel genuinely changed. There's one question I want to leave you with as you stand here in the Copenhagen evening. The water behind you, the warm light of the city in front of you. If this is what one northern city does to a person in a single day, Resupstum opens them, quietly insists on the necessity of beauty. What might the next city do? What is waiting in the one you haven't visited yet? The series continues. The next city is already calling, and when I tell you where we're going, you won't be ready for it.